thanks so much for taking the time to be with us here today. So we've heard an awful lot recently about what they call the consumerization of enterprise technology, which is everything from people bringing their own device to work to companies making enterprise software which is much, much nicer to use. But I always wonder, why did they get away with making it so cumbersome for so long? Anne?
So I think older systems in enterprise are hard to rip out and replace, right? Older software, you had to sign up for 3-5-year contracts, took a long time to implement. And once organizations have kind of inertia and momentum with those, it is hard to displace. Change is hard within larger organizations. So I think that allowed them to get away for a while until new technology like ours could come in and replace it, not necessarily all in rip and replace, but in easy adoption from small, innovative teams.
Rod, do you have any theories about why people were happy to let their workers complain and not change anything?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see it in our business. So we've grown over the last, we're about 4 people in a small room. 8 years ago, we're now 1,200 staff. And what I've seen as we've got larger, sort of 2 big things. One is we've become an enterprise ourselves. So we've seen sort of firsthand how the enterprise software just really isn't there. It feels like you're the first ones trying to make things work. But also what I find is as we've got larger, we spend a lot of time trying to keep our business sort of fast and nimble. And a lot of those enterprise vendors hadn't been around for a long time. So I think there's a huge gap between some people that are driving strategy, those that are implementing products, and that was probably fine when the IT world was going slower, but now the IT world's moving so quickly, you do see this massive gap, and they just, if you're sort of releasing software every year, it's just so different to how that, most of us startups have been working for the last few years.
And so how do you try and address the problems with Zendesk?
So what we see with Zendesk is, so Zendesk provides customer service and customer engagement software for organizations who want to better serve their customers via email, chat, social, voice. And what we see is that companies use this for both internal use, serving their employees, as well as serving their end customers. And something that we do is just make it as easy as possible to try the software, get it up and running. People can sign up and start using in the same day. And that wasn't possible with enterprise software before.
What about you, Xero? What do you try and do differently to your predecessors?
Yeah, so one of the key things we did was, we really looked for internal social media tools. So, we now have 20 different offices with Xero staff, and so, tools like Yammer, now the modern one, Slack, that kind of became the virtual water cooler for the whole company. So I think the first thing was having those communications tools so that you can, make sure everyone's is aware of the strategy. People can be part of the conversation. So much like you guys, we're now, when we're looking at, when we put tools inside our own business, we're looking for the modern versions of them, that you can sign up with Google and they're on a fast development path and all of those things. So we're trying to find vendors in our business that are culturally the same as us, and that helps. And quite often you can have a direct dialogue with them, which is great.
Yeah, let's talk briefly about Slack, because I feel like they are the hottest enterprise tech company of the moment. Their valuation seems to change every couple of weeks. And I use them, and I like them, but I'm never quite sure whether, they should be made such a big deal of. It's basically just a chat app for work, right? Like, you might as well have been using AOL Messenger from back in the day. Why do you think that they've been so successful?
Well, I think the big thing is a bit like Yammer, a bit like Atlassian, they've got the virality model right, so they're exciting because of their growth. We were one of the first ones on to Yammer, and went through the Microsoft acquisition, which was terrible. The software actually got worse, and we've been looking for alternatives really for the last few years, but actually it's got a lot better over the last 6 months. One of the things that we look for, and we use FlowDoc internally mainly for our dev people. What I like about Yammer and why we haven't changed is it does have that kind of full stream of consciousness. rather than those room-based sort of chat things. But again, there's so many interesting tools. Like we're using things like Trello. That's almost like Microsoft Access used to be in the day, where we use it for all sorts of different things to put visibility over projects. And I think one of the things is, especially in development companies, you've always got great people that are looking and seeing the trends, and so we're trying to, we're happy to bring those in and try them out.
Yeah, and I think with Slack or any of these collaboration tools, anything that reduces email volume is a great thing, right? And is going to get adopted widely in a company. And the ability, as Rod said, the collaboration, being able to search and find everything there versus digging in email, I think is a huge reason they've taken off.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to not like their jobs simply because of email, right? So, yeah, I can see that. Are there any other of these new startups that you admire?
So one that I'm a huge fan of and is really innovative in how they've approached enterprises is Expensify. I know it's funny to say expense software is something fun to use, but Expensify actually makes it, right? So with all the travel, I'm sure that we do and people in the audience do, the ability that the mobile app, for me, like approving expenses on the team.
No faxing off your receipts.
No faxing of receipts. And the fact that you can just forward things from email into it and it knows how to categorize it, they actually do make it fun, to submit your expense reports.
Wow,
and so
that's a big claim.
We recently actually evaluated Expensify as an organization, versus an older technology, and piloted both, and had employees tell us which one they would use, right? So for things like that in the enterprise, the more effective and happier employees can be with using it, the better off the company is. So that's one I'm a big fan of.
Rod, is there any others you're a fan of?
Yeah, maybe answer something just slightly differently. What we're seeing now is a real shortage of good enterprise SaaS applications. So we've been very busy in the small business space, and small business is a really interesting hybrid of all the complexity of building enterprise software, but you've also got to build a marketing organization to sell at scale. And I think now that as we've become an enterprise ourselves, there's so many things around HR and all these other tools. And what's different about enterprise SaaS is you don't necessarily have to build a large sales team to go and get your first bit of revenue. So I've done a couple of startups before in the enterprise software space, and they're interesting because you can use the heroics of the founder to go and get your first deals. And I think what we're seeing now with SaaS companies' valuations being off probably for the next year or two, actually doing startups in the SaaS space, in the enterprise SaaS space, where you can go and get those first few deals, and also you can build viral sales model like Slack's done quite well.
So this viral sales model is basically when I persuade my team to use Slack, but we don't pay for it until we get to a certain level, and then eventually the IT managers look around and go, God, there's a lot of teams in this company who are using Slack. We better actually buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. And what about the danger or the threat from sort of big, more consumer-focused companies like Google and Facebook when it comes to at-work products? Like Google has Google at Work. Facebook is working on a trial with Facebook at Work, which is meant to be a kind of internal communication tool as well. Could they kill off any of these new, highly valued startups?
Well, I think there's still, as Rod said earlier, there's still so much opportunity in enterprise software, right? There's all the productivity, collaboration, presentations, spreadsheets, all of that Google is innovating in. Software that departments use to be better effective at their jobs is still a huge opportunity, whether it's customer service teams, whether it's HR, finance, the number of applications and technology that even a medium-sized organization needs to use. There's still so much opportunity. So I don't feel like it's, anytime soon there's going to be one platform that does all of those functions.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we're going to put our internal corporate information on Facebook, right? So that's just not going to happen.
Is that just because you don't trust the company? Because obviously they're going to make an at-work product that's going to be more secure and private than my Facebook profile.
Yeah, well, I don't think they can have it both ways. When their business is sort of not about privacy, it's about sharing, and their track record on individual consumer privacy why would you bring that into more of an enterprise business? And we've also seen the same play out with Google. So Google Plus is being dismantled now. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have blurred Google Plus inside our business for our internal social networking, because it would be so easy for somebody to mispost and put something that should have only been seen internally, externally. So I think in the enterprise, you're going to see specific brands that are clearly enterprise technology, so you know your data's on that network and not bleeding out into the public. So again, I think there's massive opportunities for the next generation enterprise SaaS vendors. One of the things that I heard actually a few years ago talking to an investor in New York was there's actually a shortage of enterprise entrepreneurs. So if you look at the really big enterprise SaaS companies, Workday and Salesforce, they've both they're done by founders that are in the 40s and 50s. They've been in the enterprise they've been in enterprise technology all of their life. Whereas people doing startups in their 20s actually haven't worked for a large enterprise, so they don't realise how many problems there are to solve. So there's actually a shortage of entrepreneurs in the enterprise market.
So that's a recommendation to the audience. Don't create another social app. Go into the enterprise business. Okay.
Yes, please do.
What are the kind of problems that you think that people haven't solved yet? I mean, one of the things I wonder about is that there's a lot of focus on things like email, but maybe more specialized problems for particular industries startups haven't started to address yet.
Yeah, I personally think there's a lot of opportunity within all of like HR and talent, everything from hiring through payroll, benefits, employee data. There's definitely some pioneers like Workday, there's Zenefits and payroll, but there's still so much opportunity, and companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on those systems, and employees today hate them. And so I think there's a ton of opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, even right at the basics, we find that the directory problem hasn't been solved. So you have the big enterprise players not really playing nicely, whereas I think in the small business SaaS, most of the businesses collaborate really well, but the enterprise market has been at war. So, if you move from Microsoft Active Directory to Google, there's a whole lot of holes around that directory, which is about, knowing about the people on your network, making sure when people leave, you can turn everything off, being able to discover new people, getting a view by department. Like quite often I'll be traveling to an office like our Denver office, and I want to quickly see a picture of everyone's in the office so I can say hi to them. Even that problem hasn't been solved at the enterprise level. So even the basic stuff inside the enterprise is still incredibly broken.
Yeah. And what about mobile? I mean, obviously one of the reasons a lot of these new tools has come up is because we're now sort of expected to work wherever we are and constantly. Is that a good thing?
I think if it helps people be more productive, then it definitely is a good thing. And there's an expectation that the same software that you use, whether at desktop, at work, that you can use, while you're traveling, or it just gives people flexibility of when they get their work done. So I do think, and certainly the workforce now, right, that's coming in, the expectation that the mobile app works just as well or actually better is very much there and high. So I think having a mobile version that is absolutely critical nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. And like for us, we're sort of headquartered in New Zealand, the furthest country from anywhere else. So, by definition, we're a 24/7 business. So, we've got meetings that are happening, all around the clock. So, work is something that you are doing, while you're watching the kids' soccer on Saturday morning, and when you want to have summer, you want to be at the beach and do work. So, I think mobility for these global companies is just primary, and it allows you to actually have lifestyle. And you can always turn the phones off, but we find it's great. You can work from anywhere. One of the biggest things we did in the last year was move to Google Hangouts. So we were probably the last people to put one of those Polycom 20-cran video conferencing units in. But now over the last year, we've been pulling all of those out, putting Chrome boxes everywhere. And it just means the whole company can video conference from anywhere, whether on their laptop or in our meeting rooms. And that really is how these new global businesses are operating.
I feel like we're at this really experimental stage where people are adopting new technologies into the workplace, which is really exciting. But I also wonder, if I'm the IT manager and I don't know, I think I saw a survey once which said that, the average security company goes into an IT manager and he says, oh, I've got, 40 different apps running on my network, and it turns out to be 10 times as many because he doesn't realize that employees are bringing their own devices, they're bringing their own apps for different teams. I mean, isn't this actually just a real huge security risk?
I do think security is absolutely critical within the enterprise. Data security, whether it's customer data, employee data. So those are things that any enterprise software company has to make sure is top priority. But the question you had about IT departments, I think now the expectation within fast-growing companies and tech-forward companies is that serving the employee is a really important part of what the IT department does, right? And watching where adoption is coming from actually drives the decisions versus the other way around. Because ultimately that department and the employees in that department are consumers of this technology too, and they want the experience to be good and easy and fast and fun, just like they want for their colleagues. So we definitely see that equation turning around where IT is looking at employees as their end customers and measuring the satisfaction that employees have with any of the applications they use.
Fantastic. Oh, well, thank you both for joining me. I think the message here is that if I can buy things on my phone on the way to work on the bus, that I should be able to have just as easy software to use at work.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.